Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we'll be taking a look at the tiny little powerhouse, which is the Gigabyte Aorus X570i Pro Wi-Fi. I think that's right. Sounds about right. Anyway, keep watching to find out more. This is also a fantastic bargain. I managed to pick this up off Facebook Marketplace. An interesting story behind this actually, and if you want to see the full story of it, there is going to be a live stream where we're going to see if this board actually works, because potentially as it stands at the moment, it might not. So if you're watching this video later, then you've possibly already seen the live stream, so you know the answer anyway, but anyway, I digress. Let's take a look at this thing and see what it's all about. So obviously this is an ITX motherboard, so as with most things ITX, you do have to take into account there's going to be some compromises, because it's a very small board. There's only so much you can physically fit on it. But I think Gigabyte have actually done a pretty decent job on this. Pretty much all the boxes are ticked, and the fact that this is an X570 chipset means that pretty much all the ports and parts where you can actually add on accessories such as M.2 drives, graphics cards, etc. Everything is PCI Express Gen 4 x 4 at least, or Gen 4 x 16 for the graphics card slot. So in terms of actually creating a really powerful little PC, this has a lot of tricks up its sleeve. So let's start off with a tour of the packaging, and then we'll go through the unboxing, and then we'll take a closer look at the board itself. So packaging wise, as you can see, X570i Aorus Pro Wi-Fi, gaming motherboard, AM4 supported, PCI Express Gen 4, X570 chipset. You've also got built-in addressable RGB and also Wi-Fi 6, which is always a nice thing to see. As you can see on this particular one, it does say Ryzen 3000 series desktop processor supported. Depending when you're buying this, potentially you may have another stick on there saying 5000 series supported, but don't worry, even if it doesn't support your processor, there is a BIOS flashback button, so you can always update the BIOS to get it ready for the latest and greatest processors, of which being the 5950 is pretty much the most this will take, and also the 5800X3D. There is a new BIOS update available for that at the time of filming. The last BIOS update for this actually was in the end of March 2023. We're recording this May 2023, so potentially there will be more BIOS updates, but there's actually been a ton of them, about 16 or so since this board was first released a good, 3 years ago now. So yeah, it's had quite a bit of time to mature in terms of BIOS updates. On the back, we've got more information about what it's all about. So we've got a direct 8-phase VRM there. So there is 70 amp chokes on there as well. So yeah, plenty of power there. Being that they are all direct single phases is very handy. So again, you can use high core count processors without too much worry. We've also got some thermal solutions built in, so as with most X570 chipsets, apart from the S variants, this does have a fan built in as well, but this is a dual purpose one. It actually aids cooling for your M.2 drives as well. You've got things like full PCI Express Gen 4 technology all throughout the system, as we mentioned earlier. Wi-Fi 6 in there, which also includes Bluetooth 5 as well. You've also got the immersive gaming VR audio, which is basically a modified version of Realtek's ALC 1220. They used the 1220 VB, so it's a slightly different variation of that software-wise, but it is still software-based. RGB Fusion 2.0 supported. You've got Smart Fan 5 as well, so if you want to take control of your fans, you can do. Q-Flash, as we said earlier, HDMI and all that kind of good stuff. And you can see the full specifications there, so I'll give you a close-up of that so you can have a quick read through, and if you want to pause it, I would suggest you do it right now. So when it comes to the actual unboxing, we've got the motherboard itself, which is on a nice 8-layer PCB, which actually makes it surprisingly heavy considering it is a very small board, hence why it's on the display stand and not in my hand right now. In terms of what you get actually inside the packaging, this may differ slightly because I have bought this as a used bargain, so potentially you may get something slightly different, but I'm sure that this is pretty much as it should come from the factory. So you get your installation DVD, which potentially could be handy for drivers, etc. You've also got your user guide, installation guide, etc., and goes through in very good detail of what all the ports and pins do. You also got a M.2 cooling pad there, so after you've installed your M.2 drive, you can attach the cooling thermal pad there to transfer heat onto the metal shield. You've also got a Gigabyte logo badge, should you wish to affix that to something, and you get your multilingual installation guide, etc. A couple of SATA cables. Yours probably will be in a pack. And last but not least, we get the antenna. So this is for the Wi-Fi 6. This is actually pretty cool, so it's magnetic base, so if you've got a PC that is metal, obviously you can stick it to it. You can adjust the antenna either upright, so if you stick it on the back, or if you stick it on the top, you have it upright, whatever you want to do. and it terminates in two SMA connectors which attach to the back of the motherboard. And obviously, if you don't want to use this, you can just use the traditional kind of screw-on antennas, but you will need to purchase those separately. And that takes us onto the motherboard itself. So let's take a quick tour and take a look at all the features on this. Again, it's very compact. Every time I pick this up, first of all, I'm surprised by the weight of it because it is really heavy. And secondly, I'm just surprised how small it actually is. So it's a standard ITX form factor. So you're looking at 17 by 17 centimeters, and pretty much everything you want is on there. So in terms of power delivery, so in this top corner, we've got the 8-pin EPS connector. Next to that, you have got your CPU PWM connection. So that's for 4-pin. You can, with Gigabyte systems, use either 4 or 3-pin, depending on which you want to do. You can control it in Smart Fan 5 or potentially other fan control softwares if you wish to. The choice is entirely up to you. You've got this really big heatsink here, which it looks initially like the whole thing is the heatsink, but sadly part of this is actually plastic. The heatsink here is removable and actually does come with a thermal pad, although this one, due to its age, had been a bit crumbly, so I've actually removed it and replaced it with a brand new thermal pad. Hopefully it's still going to work, but we'll find out as we go on through the live stream. So you've got our 8 direct phases of VRM there. You've got your AM4 socket there in the middle, standard AM4 mounting brackets. Not a great deal else along this top section. You've got your 2 RAM slots, so that's going to support up to 64 gigs of RAM, so 2 32 gig sticks, supporting up to DDR5 5300 megatransfers per second, or megahertz, however you want to look at it. So yeah, lots of options there. Also got some nice steel around the edge there to strengthen it, which is always a nice thing to see. Got your 24-pin main power connector there. Next, we've got our I/O section, so front panel I/O, and the 4-pin one there is for attaching a BIOS speaker, if you wanted to use one of those. Moving down, you've got 4 SATA ports, so all of those can be used along with all of the M.2s because there are no limitations really with the X570 chipset, so you can connect up everything you want to and not have to worry about bifurcation or PCI Express lanes being clogged or used or misdirected, that sort of stuff. If I twist this around a little bit, we'll take a closer look at what else is going on down here. So you've got a 4-pin RGB there, so 12 volt RGB. Next to that, you've got your USB 3.0 front panel connector. Next to that, there is a USB 2.0 connector as well. Just above that is the very lonely only other system fan connector. So there's a 4-pin PWM fan there. You can attach fans, etc. there, should you wish to. Move in a little bit further along, so we've got our PCI Express Gen 4 x 16 slot there, also with reinforcement guard, which is always nice to see. Just above that, we've got our X570 cooler. This is for the chipset, and also take out those 2 screws there, remove this top section, and that gives you access to another PCI Express Gen 4x4 M.2 slot. For those of you that are concerned about the fan, essentially it should last you somewhere in the region of about 7 years. It's a ball bearing fan, and on the Gigabyte website it says it's suitable for up to 60,000 hours, which I quickly googled, and that equates to somewhere around 7 hours if it's on constantly. So clearly they're pretty confident, so it should last you, well, in excess of 10 years. I don't see any reason why it should fail early unless it gets dirty, etc. Potentially you can replace it if you want. This chipset probably won't get that hot. A lot of the X570 chipsets were always at the point where they didn't really need a fan, but it was part of the design. And as the X570 progressed and went to the X570S, a lot of them went for silent versions. So potentially, even if the fan fails, it shouldn't cause you too much bother. Going back up slightly, we've got the AM4 socket, as we said earlier. So 3000 series processor supported out of the box from the very first BIOS revision. If you want to put something on there a little bit newer, then you'll have to update the BIOS, etc. But there is a BIOS flashback button, so no problems there. Standard AM4 mounting brackets. Something which is missing, which I would have liked to have seen, which might be a deal breaker for some people, is the fact there isn't a water pump header, which would have been a very nice addition, especially with some of the smaller ITX cases now still having the option for installing a radiator. I think it would have been nice to have an additional header for that, but saying that, most pumps you can run at 100%, so you can power them via SATA, that kind of thing. So it's not the end of the world, but would have been nice to have an additional header there. Something I almost missed actually, because it is very tucked away. So just in between the RAM slots and the back of the M.2 section, there is actually a digital RGB. So it's your 5 volt, 3-pin addressable RGB, one header there. Moving around to other connectivity. So in this section here, we've got our front panel audio connection. Next to that, there is an additional TPM header, should you wish to use a separate TPM device. Most people won't, but certainly it is an option. And just above that, very, very tiny in there, is your BIOS battery reset or CMOS reset pins, 2 of those there. The actual CMOS battery is actually hidden away on this, so in between the heat shield, I've probably got some B-roll of this, you can see it's actually attached via a wire fly lead, so if you do need to replace the BOS battery, you're going to have to either resolder one to the existing wires or potentially try and get another one. I have had a quick look online and didn't manage to find one anywhere, so if you do know where you can get a BOS battery for one of these, then please do let me know in the comments section below. So now we can take a look at the back of the board. Now normally we wouldn't take much interest in the back of a motherboard, but certainly for this one there is a little bit of interest. So you have got almost a full jacket going around the outside edge, which aids with some of the thermal load. There is actually some pads on the back there, on the back of the VRM, which then dissipate into this frame, so a little bit of extra VRM cooling there. And also, really importantly, we do have our secondary M.2 slot. So again, PCI Express Gen 4x4, so you can put 2 drives on here, which is actually pretty unusual for a ITX board as small as this. And clearly, obviously you've got access to the backplate, so if you are going for some kind of custom cooling, you can get some pretty good access to the backplate there. Going around to the back, so this is the rear I/O. So actually, there are some things on this which I think are pretty cool, but there's also some things which I think for a lot of people is probably a little bit too much. So in terms of your outputs, so if you're using a processor with integrated graphics, you do actually have 3 outputs available to you. So there are 2 HDMI ports and a single display port, all of which are supporting 4K 60Hz. Although I'm thinking for a kind of X570 class board, most people probably won't go with an APU on here, and there aren't any PCI Express Gen 4 ones, so it's kind of pointless buying a board like this for that kind of output. Again, if you just want a small PC, put an APU in here and have 3 displays running, you can run all 3 displays from an APU at once should you wish to. Moving across to USBs, we've got USB 3.0, those are color coded in blue, so we've got 3 of those there, plus an additional one at the bottom there that is actually still USB 3.0, but it is color coded white. This is for BOS flashback duties. And of course, next to that, we've got a BOS flashback LED, which is nestled in there, quite tiny. And there is the USB flashback button, nice and clicky. And also, obviously, there is an integrated I/O shield on the back, which is, I guess, is pretty obvious, but just pointing it out there. Next to that, we have got our USB 3.1, Type C and Type A ports. So those are always nice to see. Sadly on the board again, due to limitations and potentially pricing, there isn't a USB Type-C front panel connection. I'm guessing probably when these came out, USB Type-C was still very much in its infancy, and there were very few boards which actually did have internal headers. Most X570s didn't, to be honest with you. It was only some of the very, very high-end ones. So not surprising, but at least we've got one. You've also got the Intel LAN, so this is Gigabit LAN using Intel's i211 chipset, I believe it is. So that'll do Gigabit, 10100, etc. and fast Ethernet. Next to that, you've got your SMA ports, so that is going to be for Wi-Fi 6 and also Bluetooth 5.0 duties. So pretty decent there. Would have been nice to have Wi-Fi 6E. Fortunately with this, it is using a M.2 card, which you can get access to if you take all the back panel off, which I'll show you some images of. There's a couple of screws there, you can remove that and replace it with an additional M.2 slot at some point should you want to. But I think for most people, Wi-Fi 6 is pretty much enough. Let me know what you think in the comments. And last of all, you've got 3 ports there for your audio output. So you've got mic, line out and line in. This does actually support 7.1 audio, although as is common with a lot of boards, if they've only got 3 ports, if you do want to use all of the analog outputs, you would have to repurpose the front panel outputs and control that in your software to make sure it's known as other ports. But other than that, I think that's pretty good. Realistically, if you're using this for some sort of home theatre PC, it's a very strong chance you'll probably use some sort of USB DAC to get your audio out. So potentially those aren't of much use anyway. Or maybe you're just using headphones at your desk. But anyway, I think it's absolutely fine. And again, that is using the Realtek ALC 1220VB chipset. So there you go. There is a tour of the board. I've got to be honest with you, I'm very impressed with this. I love the fact that it's so small and compact. We will be having a build coming up soon, assuming this board works, which I haven't actually tested it yet, which is probably not a good idea, but anyway. It's a long story. Like I said, you can check out the stream and see what that is all about, and you can find out if this actually works. We will be doing also follow-up videos on this board as well, so if you want to know how to flash the BIOS on this, obviously we'll be doing a BIOS flashback, assuming it works, and potentially we'll do a BIOS tour as well, again, assuming that the board works. If it doesn't, I'll probably have to just buy another one anyway, but this was a bargain. I couldn't miss it, so I had to go for it. So anyway, let me know what you think about this one in the comments section below. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, but for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.